Hi, I'm Teddy Burriss, your LinkedIn and Sales Navigator strategist, trainer, and coach. And I was asked this question a few minutes ago: How do I get followers on LinkedIn? That's a pretty powerful question, and there are lots of things you can do. You need to do a few things right to make it work, and I'm going to show you what those are in this video. Well, number one, you've got to understand the difference between followers and connections. There's not a whole lot of difference between the two, but there are a couple big ones. The first one is if you're not a connection, connections by default are followers. That's a given. Once you connect with someone, you also become a follower. You can easily unfollow after you've connected and still maintain being a connection. But a couple other things that are important to understand, and that is you can't invite followers to an event. You can't invite followers to follow your company page. You can only invite connections to events. You can only invite connections to be a follower. And there are just a couple other basic things that you can't do with a follower that you can do with a connection. But that being said, followers are important. I've created a pretty nice following on LinkedIn. I have 22,000 followers and have nowhere near that many connections. And I like my follower network. It's really an important group of people to me. Because if you click the follow button, that generally says you're interested in what that person shares and what that person does. So understand the difference between connections and followers is important. Again, from a very high level perspective, there's not that much difference for the most part. The second thing is you got to then know, okay, how do I let people follow me? Well, there's a setting in LinkedIn settings that you need to change. And that's under, I think it's under visibility. There it is, under visibility at the bottom, followers. Choose who can follow you. So you need to adjust that setting. And there's two things you'll want to consider adjusting here. Number one is you want to turn on everyone on LinkedIn can be a follower. That should be the case for all of us. Turn that on. By default, it's only your connections. And I want it to be everyone. Then the second setting you're going to want to do in this same area is enable follow as the primary action versus connect. Note this right here. If you're using creator mode, that aligns with this directly. If you turn this off, you're turning off creator mode. If you turn off creator mode, you're turning off follow as the primary action. But you, again, turn on so everyone can follow you, and then turn on follow as the primary action. And this is all under settings allow-follow. Now there's another activity you're going to want to do to be able to create or build a following. Following by default means they're interested in what you say. They're interested in what you share. They're interested in the conversations that you start and that you participate in. So if you want followers, you're going to need to be able to sustain sharing content, maybe even creating content, deciding what content to create, and then deciding what content to share and what conversations to get into. You're not going to generate followers if you're not giving content on a regular basis. For me, it's pretty easy because I use tools like Quora and the questions that I get asked by my clients and the people who are interested in what I do. And though that becomes the content that I give through LinkedIn and other places to generate my following. So if you want followers, you're going to have to create conversations through content. And you're going to have to participate in conversations by engaging on other people's content. Another tip to consider is that if you want more people to find you on LinkedIn and consider following you, then what you're going to need to do is get your LinkedIn profile URL out there in other places. Maybe engage on website content and use your LinkedIn profile URL as the website. Maybe engage on other content on Twitter or Facebook or Instagram or Quora or YouTube, et cetera, and always have your LinkedIn profile URL where relevant and appropriately associated with the profiles that you're engaging on. You look at my Facebook, my Quora, my LinkedIn, and my Twitter, et cetera, my LinkedIn profile URL is easily accessible through those social media footprints. So get your LinkedIn profile URL out there where you can and encourage people to follow you there. And the other activity to consider doing is not to accept every LinkedIn invite. When people send you an invitation to connect, if they are not highly relevant to you, which means they could potentially be a client, then don't accept their LinkedIn invite. Encourage them to follow you instead. Once you engage with them via LinkedIn messaging, they can engage with you through LinkedIn messaging without ever having to connect with you. But if they're not highly relevant to you, encourage them to follow you on LinkedIn, and that can be your organic way of generating more followers. So these are just a couple tips. I'll share the list of tips in a Quora answer and in the YouTube description. But you're going to need to do these activities in order to generate followers and to get more and more people to want to follow you. I'm Teddy Burriss, your LinkedIn and Sales Navigator strategist, trainer, and coach. I hope these ideas are useful for you.